Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. This is where we share real life experiences and we talk about real world things. And, the idea is to give you a safe place, a safe in a world where there's just so much bad information out there and just so much bad energy. It's getting better. It's really interesting. It's getting better, which is really, really cool. But the idea is that this is where you can come to learn real information. Nobody wants anything from you. We just want to share our experiences and our wisdom, if you will, um, uh, to help you live a better life. So maybe you can learn from some of our experiences, both good and bad, and decide on either applying them to your life or maybe not. All right. So this is a John talk, and this talk today I don't have any guests. It's just me. I want to talk about you. I want to talk about you from the perspective of the world and making life better, right? Because that's what this podcast is called. It's called Finding Better. And in the last few weeks, I've had amazing, amazing guests. I had Dr. Jennifer Corey, and she talked about how the brain thinks and the heart knows. I had Janine McJanet with me, and I had Dr. Steven Sideroff. These people talking about heart and how to make your life better. And, we live in such a harsh world right now. And you've heard me say this before. In fact, I've got the URL called it'sallaboutheart.com. Haven't built the website yet, but it's coming. And so you've heard me say that it's all about heart and it's all about love. And, one of the things that Dr. Jennifer had mentioned was that where we put our attention is where our energy goes. Does that make sense? So wherever we're paying attention, that's where our energy goes. Now, the good news is that if our attention is going to good stuff, that's where our energy goes. The bad news is if our attention is going to bad stuff, that's where our energy goes. Now, what do I mean by attention? It's our thoughts. It's what we're thinking, right? And, one of the things that we talked about together was that we are all so externally focused, which means we're so focused on other people and other things and everything outside of ourselves that very few of us really take the time and spend the energy to focus on ourselves. And I want to talk with you a little bit about that because it is so, so important in this world that we live in. You know, we pay attention to these messages that come in, external stuff, right? I call them, as some of you know, messages of inadequacy. And, whether it be social media or advertisements or whatever it is, all these people are out there trying to convince us that we need their product, or if our life isn't like theirs, we suck, or that we're something less. And, it puts us in a mindset of comparing ourselves to others. And when you compare yourself to others, you are living and you are playing a game you can't win. You can't win because there's always going to be somebody who's got more than you, who is happier than you, or at least they look like it, right? I mean, you have multimillionaires who are absolutely miserable because some of their best friends are billionaires and they don't have $1 billion. It's just crazy, right? And so we live in this world of these messages of inadequacy, messages of comparison. On social media, you have all these, just it's crazy. It's crazy. What are the reality TV? It's nuts and it's very, very unhealthy. You have messages of hate. You have messages of fear. And there's so much of that going on. And the idea is that we tend to spend virtually all of our energy focused externally on all this crap that's out there, and it's not doing us any good. Now, here's something that Dr. Jennifer talked about. And she talked about this in episode 108, by the way. She says, we are genetically biased towards the negative. And she mentioned that this has been the case for thousands of generations because it has been survival. Up until just a few generations ago, our whole world as human beings has been about survival. and taking a look at what's going on and what's wrong out there because we don't want to be eaten by saber-toothed tigers, right? And so the world that we live in now has happened faster than our genetics can keep up with it. And so we're genetically biased towards the negative. So, which is part of the reason why we are constantly, it's like a magnet. It's like we're flies to the light, right? Oh, something negative's happening. Something negative is happening. So let's go there. And so you add on to that our natural focus of what people think of us, of what people think of us. So you have this natural bias towards negativity, and you have this interest, if you will, and this bias of negativity in terms of what people think of us and what they say about us. And it's no wonder why we're dealing with the rise of mental illness these days, because you have all this stuff that I just talked about that's happening at the same time. You've heard me say that one of my favorite songs of all time is Whitney Houston's Greatest Love of All. Learning to love yourself. It is the greatest love of all. How do you do that? And first of all, what do you mean by that? Right? There's so much truth to it. And I just want to share a couple of minutes with you talking about that. There are some people out there, a lot of people out there who don't believe they deserve love, that they don't believe that they are deserving of being loved. And a lot of those people don't feel like they deserve love, and they certainly don't believe that they deserve to love themselves, right? Now, whatever the reasons are, and again, could be because of the external focus, but there's a lot of people who don't believe they deserve to be loved, and they certainly don't believe that they deserve to love themselves. And Dr. Steven Sideroff in episode 110, he said something that really, really resonated with me. He says, you weren't born with this. You weren't born with any of these beliefs that you're not deserving. You learned it. You learned it somehow. The good news is you can unlearn it. Okay. And he's right. He's absolutely right. We weren't born with the idea that we don't deserve to be loved. To the contrary, our mothers were there the moment we were born, and there was love. There was love in that room, right? And so that whole idea is something that we need to unlearn. And the first thing that we have to do to unlearn it is to realize that we learned it. Okay? All the negative feelings that we have about ourselves, all the negative feelings that we have about who we are, somebody taught us those things. And maybe they were taught inadvertently, maybe they were taught to us in error, but nonetheless, we absorbed it. We absorbed whatever the messages were that have led us to who we are today. Does that make sense? And the idea, so without that as a backdrop, that you do deserve to be loved, that whatever you're feeling that's negative about yourself is learned. The idea to unlearn it is to make yourself a priority, to make ourselves a priority. And Dr. Jennifer said that making yourself a priority internally, making your internal focus a higher priority than your external focus is a message that everybody needs to hear, because it's something that can absolutely change your world. Absolutely. You know, the number one challenge that we have is learning to put ourselves first. Learning to put ourselves first. And and the reason why that's so hard is because we have learned that putting ourselves first is selfish, right? And so that is one message that we've programmed into ourselves. You don't want to be selfish. You want to share. You want to take care of others. You want to be a good person to other people. Well, when was the last time anybody said you want to be a good person to yourself? Right? And yet it is so, so important. Um, the idea is if you don't make time for yourself, if you don't, if you don't take a moment every single day and make time for yourself, you're just giving people the exhausted version of you. You're giving people what's left of you at the end of the day, the shell of a person that has expended all of your energy, right? That's what your kids get when you come home, when you're not taking care of yourself. And so the idea is that when you change your mind, you change your life. The mindset simply that says you are the most important thing on planet Earth. And if you don't take care of you, you certainly can't take care of anybody else. And I'm sure that's got to make sense to you. Let me rephrase that. You can't take care of anybody else in an optimal way. You'll survive. Somehow you'll survive. But you want to give your loved ones the best of yourself, not the worst of yourself. You want to give them the highest form of yourself, not what's left at the end of the carnage, right? And so when you change your mind, you change your life. And what I'm talking about in changing your mind is your mindset. Your mindset that says all that external stuff, all the negative stuff is bullshit. It's bullshit, right? I mean, look at it, smell it, and walk away from it. Okay. Most importantly is to smell it because that's going to force you to walk away from it. But the idea is we have to train our brains to see the good, to see the love. And there's good and love everywhere. We just have to train ourselves to see it, to see the connection, right? And again, it is a conscious effort that you have to take because again, our minds are biased towards the negative. So now as your head is going this way, you got to say, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, stop it. Stop focusing on the negative. Let's go this way. Let's go this way. This looks like a better path to follow. You've heard me say that one of my favorite scenes in the movies was on Bambi when little Thumper the rabbit is teasing Bambi, and Thumper's mama comes up and says, "Thumper, what does your father always tell you?" And Thumper says, "If you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all." Okay? So that's what we train our kids to do. That's what I train myself to do. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything. On the other hand, when people have unkind things to say to us, what do? We normally accept it and we normally absorb it and we normally stew on it and it becomes part of who we are, right? So if you do have an uneducated thumper, right? A jerky thumper. Thumper is one of my favorite characters because he's so sweet. But if you get a jerky thumper in your life, it's your choice. It's your choice on whether you want to accept those jerky comments, right? Or not. And it's easy not to. Once you've trained your brain and your mind not to, your heart knows you're not the person that you're being criticized to be. Your heart knows that the person is wrong, right? The brain thinks, but the heart knows. Get to the heart. And it's okay just to walk away. And all you have to say, and you can come up with your own thing, but all you have to say is, you know what? Appreciate the feedback and walk away. And instead of planting that seed in there, right? That seed of poison ivy in your mind, right? Replace it with something different. Replace it with, I mean, instead of stewing on that, think of somebody you love. Think of your kids. Think of your parents. Think of your friends. Think of somebody else and just replace it immediately. You do not have to accept crap from anybody, let alone plant it in your brain, right? So this is what I mean in terms of ideas of training your brain, right? When you see something negative and your brain's going that way, just kind of going, yeah, you know what? I don't know if that person is as much of a as that is what you say that person is. Or I don't think that my life is as bad as people are making it out to be. Or I don't think that I'm as much of a fool as people are making me out to be. You know, don't let it sit. Just don't let that poison ivy germinate in your brain. Just get rid of it and focus on something else. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But train the brain to see the good. Okay. And you know what? One trick I do every once in a while is when a jerky people says something jerky to me, the thing I say in my mind immediately is, thank God I'm not them. Right? I love them. They're my brother, spiritual brother or sister, but thank goodness I'm not them. And I just walk away because they are living on an unhappy life somehow. Okay? Now, always remember, and this is from Doug Kennedy, one of my guests, is that a lot of times you do get what you expect in life. You do it. It's called manifestation, right? You think of it and your mind works on it. And so you've experienced it, right? Oh my God, it's going to be a bad day. It's going to be a sucky day. It's going to be a terrible day. And it's a bad day. Or you go, oh, this is going to be such a great party and we're going to have so much fun. And it's a great party and you have a lot of fun. Or I can't wait to give this gift to Tom because he's just going to love it. And gosh, I can't think of something more perfect. And Tom opens the gift and he loves it, right? So a lot of times you get what you expect in life. And if you expect kindness, you're going to get kindness. You're going to meet lots of nice people, lots of wonderful people. Now, here's one thing about that. If you expect kindness and you're a jerk yourself, forget it. It ain't going to happen. Okay? But, if you expect kindness and you want kindness, be what you want. Be what you want what you want to have manifesting in your life. And it's just going to shock you how you're going to become a magnet and that energy is going to come back to you. It is going to come back to you. And it's called confirmation bias. There's actually a word for it. Okay. So think about that. Think about expecting more for yourself, expecting more good stuff for yourself. Because you know what? Whether you believe it or not, you deserve it. You deserve a wonderful life. You deserve love. You wouldn't have been born if not. And we all started at basically on a table, right? And so the idea, you've heard me say this, and I started this episode saying it, it's all about heart, it's all about love. So love yourself first. Love yourself first. Janine McJanet said that. And when she said that, I just went, right? Love yourself first. So here's a few things to keep in mind. You know, I've talked about choices and how your life today is the product of the choices you've made in your life. And, you know, a lot of people will say, well, John, I couldn't choose my parents. Well, okay. So would you agree with this? That the life that you have, the product of your life in the future is going to be directly dependent on the choices and decisions you make from now on, right? It's all about your choices. Here's something to hit you between the eyes with. Easy choices lead to a difficult life, but difficult choices and decisions lead to an easy life. That's from Dr. Steven Sideroff. And that's my own personal experience as well. You take the easy street every at every opportunity, you're going to have a tough life. Because you know what? Life's not fair. And you have to make difficult choices. It is really hard to live a good life and be a good person. But at the end of the journey, it's amazing. I tell people to always be honest. You know how hard it is to always be honest? But when you're always honest, you never have to look over your shoulder to see who's behind you trying to do bad to you. You never if you're always doing good, um, you don't have to worry about anybody trying to take revenge on you, right? Or stuff like that. But sometimes it's tough. Sometimes it's tough to do the right thing. Sometimes it's not fair for you to have to do the right thing when nobody else is doing the right thing, right? So just remember, easy choices, difficult life. Difficult choices, an easy life. Okay? So let me just end this with a few do's and don'ts. Okay? And maybe some of these will stick. Maybe even one will stick, which would be really cool. Stop making yourself a second priority. Stop making yourself a second priority. And you know, focusing on the negative drains you. Focusing on the negatives drains you. So stop making yourself a second priority and stop focusing on the negative. Okay? Start making yourself your first priority. Try it. Try it. And I'm not saying to be selfish and just all that. Just focus internally. And I'm going to tell you a couple of ways to do this. Okay? And stop focusing on stuff that drains your spirit. Okay. What are those things? Write this down. Write this list down. What are the things that give you energy, that give you really good energy? And what are the things that drain your energy, just suck the life out of you? Write two lists. Okay. You could do it right now. Just start a list. It's amazing what that does because you can look at it and go, oh, God, these things, oh, I'm just not going to do these things anymore. Right? Don't throw away the list. Keep the list. But the things that give you energy, the things that give you love, the things that give you positive feelings, do more of it. Do more of it. Okay? Here's another thing. Stop allowing the negative bullshit in your life. Just stop, especially when it's about you. Remember that your energy again goes to wherever you put your attention, right? So when that when you're being bombarded with that negative, you're not adequate, you're not good enough, you're not a good person, you're stupid, all these different kinds of things. Stop. Don't allow it. Don't allow it in here. You can block it off. Replace it with other stuff. When it says you're not good enough, I'm good enough at whatever I want to do. When you think about it, when you've put your mind to something, whether it be playing basketball, becoming a really great basketball player, or becoming a really great artist, or becoming a really great whatever it is that you've decided to do, doing a really great job on the woodworking project that you had, or at work, you decided, right? And it happened. You can do it. It just works that way. So just remember that you can replace the bullshit. Something's going to go in here, guys. Something's going to go in here. It's your job to protect it. It's your job to put that gate up, to put armed guards in your mind that protect you, that protect your mind. How's that for analogy and a visual? Okay? And finally, in terms of the things to stop doing, stop settling for less. Stop settling for sucky people in your life. Stop settling for the things that you are just saying, well, I don't deserve any more than that. Rethink that. Take that thought. I don't deserve any more than this. I don't deserve, I don't. Take all that stuff. Anytime you have that feeling and just say, hey, you know what? Why not? Why not? Why don't I deserve more? And really think about it. That's all. Just think about it. So, again, do make yourself a top priority. Do focus more on you. Do focus more on the good and the love and the connection. Do more of the things that give you energy and do less of the things that suck your energy out. Okay? I mean, there's a lot of people out there. You know who they are. They're like vampires. They just suck the life out of you. Get them out of your life, right? Just it's okay. It's okay. There's lots of people out there. Lots of people out there who will do much more benefit to you than harm. One other thing, and this is really hard, okay? Meditation. Did I say that? Meditation? Okay. Meditation is really hard, but it is the most important way that I have found to really focus on you. And I remember being told, John, just find yourself a quiet place and just sit for 5 minutes. Sit for 5 minutes. Are you kidding me? Sit for 5 minutes? I can't sit for 5 seconds. And I eventually started with 5 seconds, where I would just sit and just try to clear my mind. 5 seconds. If you can do it for 5 seconds, try 15. It gets really, really hard. But you know what? The more I did it, the easier it got. And I found myself, and here's the hardest part of it. Remember I told you about the brain being filled with all this bullshit? Guess what happens when you try to quiet your mind? All the bullshit comes up. And you just start thinking about it. You're thinking about it. It's like, oh my God, I just got to turn this off. I'm done. Don't turn it off. Don't turn it off. When that stuff happens, just try to convert it. Try to transform it from something negative to either one, I'm going to put that aside for now, or two, try to transform it into something positive. I'm not good enough. Wait a minute. I am good enough. And I know I'm good enough. Start thinking about that stuff. And a lot of people say, block your mind. I have found that some of my best thinking happens when I'm in a quiet state. And I talk to myself and I say, you know what, you're pretty cool. Here's what I say. I say this every night and every day. I say, listen, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm smart, I'm strong, and I'm brave. Healthy, happy, smart, strong, and brave. Okay? I'm blessed, I'm loved, I'm forgiven, I'm grateful, and I'm saved. I'm a Christian. So those are the things that I say. I say a lot of things. I try to feed my mind with all kinds of wonderful things, but I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm strong, I'm smart, and I'm brave. I'm blessed, I'm loved, I'm forgiven, I'm grateful, and I'm saved. That's pretty cool. And those are the things I think about as I quiet my mind. Start with 5 seconds. Get it to 10 seconds, get it to 15 seconds, maybe get it to a minute, maybe get it to 10 minutes, maybe get it to 15 minutes. Dr. Jen says that if you can calm your mind for 15 minutes a day for 6 weeks, you will reduce your stress and anxiety by 50%. 50%. That's pretty powerful stuff. And as you're doing that, I have found that it is really powerful for me to reflect on the things that I'm grateful for I told you that whole list. I'm grateful for my whole life. People measure wealth by money, with how much money people have. But I'm here to tell you, there is so much more to wealth than money, you know? And the most important point of wealth beyond money is love. It's love. And, keep listening to my podcast because that's all my podcast is about. It's about heart, it's about love, it's about sharing. And, and a lot of people don't believe they deserve to be grateful. But one way to think about that, if you happen to be in that camp, is imagine losing something you have. The people who were affected by the fires in LA, they were happy to take a shower after 3 weeks of being homeless, right? Um, Stuff like that. I remember when I was growing up, when I was 15 years old, I learned the power of gratitude when my best friend committed suicide. And took me decades to get over it. It took me decades to get over it. And to a certain point, I'm still not. But as I look back, I am grateful for having had known him and having had him in my life. As much as I was so crushed of having lost him, um, that uh, that grief eventually turned into gratitude. It's a miracle. It really is. So with that, think about some of the stuff I told you. Rewind this or review this again. Because if you do any one of the things that I told you, it could change your life. And we're going to keep talking about stuff you can do that we've experienced in our own lives that hopefully can help you live a better life. Because after all, it's all about finding better. So with that, I love you. And let me talk about that real quick. You are loved. Whether you believe it or not, you are loved. I love you. God loves you. There's a whole world of people out there who love you. You just have to shift your mindset. And instead of that negative mindset of the world is dark, just shift it a little bit and go, you know what? I wonder if I look hard enough, I can find people who will love me. And you will. Okay. Until next time. Bye.